Welcome to Movies, Films, and Flicks. I am Mark Hoffmeyer, and joining me is a man who starts the spelling of his name with an X and ends the spelling of his last name with an X. It's Adam Clement.
Hi. So wait, is that really how it's spelled? Because I actually kind of glossed over that part where he spelled his name out.
Xander Drax.
So it's not a Z or a Z as the New Zealanders.
XX.
Man, well, I guess I got to make that a revision in my notes.
And he spells it Xanderdrax.
Right.
Yep.
It's a very cheeky moment, and I wonder of many cheeky moments. I don't know. I love that name, but I didn't realize it was necessary for him to spell it out for us.
And I gotta tell you, Treat Williams' performance in this is a real joy to behold.
I'm proud of you. I'm really proud of you. I think that's very mature, and I don't want any like surprise leftovers for that sentiment. But I'm happy that you agree that he chews the scenery in a fun, enjoyable way. Yes, I agree. Totally.
I could listen to him say grizzled scalawags and peg leg Pete's on repeat.
It made me wonder how old he was in that, because he's still working today, obviously, and he's doing regular work, it seems. But boy, in 1990 whatever that came out, he's just so animated,
Yeah, 96.
Was it really? Gosh,
yeah.
For some reason I thought it was earlier 90s.
Yeah, I mean, this movie. Okay, movies like I know why they did it, right? Because you had The Phantom going around, Rocketeer. You had 89's Batman still rolling and popular. And so this movie, I feel like, was one of the last of its kind in regards to takes place in 1938. It definitely is the bookend to that sort of weird, pulpy comic strip or serial-inspired zeitgeist, right, of the early 90s, which, was pretty cool, but in my mind, and I'm sure you'd agree, a bit too short-lived. I feel like it's, this is maybe not as good as The Rocketeer, personal opinion, but maybe a few step up from something like The Shadow. Oh, yeah, The Shadow. But this movie, I think it came out at the wrong time. You had Scream, Fargo, Independence Day.
Oh, it's such a weird, it had some strange bedfellows that year.
I mean, you had Mission Impossible, Tom Cruise hanging from a rope. You had Twister. I mean, so this, From Dusk Till Dawn, The Craft. So this was a time that was very,
feels a bit of an anachronism, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, so then you watch this PG-rated movie with, Peg Leg Pete's and Swizzled Sally's.
Literal pirates.
Yeah, literal literal.
Like, actually wearing the stripes and, bandanas or whatever.
And submarines. No one, did they leave that cave? Did the pirates leave that cave?
I was convinced they were all sort of incinerated.
No, I'm saying in general.
Oh, did they ever get out, you mean?
Yeah.
I don't know. They're pirates. They're supposed to go around and loot and rape.
I feel like pirates, but they feel like they've been stuck in there for 30 years and they haven't been aware of the times. Well, even if they were stuck in there for 30 years, no one dressed like that in 1918. Or no, 1908.
Yeah.
I mean, people weren't dressing like that then.
So they would have had to have gone to a store or something, or killed people who had visited, right? Because they're protecting the last skull thingy. So whoever would have trespassed, I mean, I'm guessing they have a mess of skellies, human bones somewhere, and it's just well, I guess this is our new outfit for the season.
Are they like the knight from Indiana Jones and the Last Crusade?
Ooh, I don't think so. Although, even for 1938, the whole Fu Manchu ancient mysticism look for the other big bad of this film, Kabai Sang, I believe, I'm not sure how anachronistic that is.
Maybe. That's a good point.
Because the knight, right, in Indy is very firmly mystical. I don't think that these pirates possess any of that. So if there is any sort of mysticism, I think it's much more limited.
They are a horribly trained outfit of pirates too. Oh my gosh, I'm so glad you said that. I was watching this, I'm like, okay, I understand that like not everybody's a stunt person here, but just going through the motions and watching them sort of take these hits and, kicks to the face, I'm like, good grief. These guys had all the solitude and time, and they're like, not even remotely on par with these two women like beating their ass into submission. Maybe they're into that. Maybe that's what they've been waiting for. They're like, please, oh please, someone kick our ass.
I mean, they run right into a rope.
Absolutely.
They get netted on purpose.
Yes.
They didn't want it. Well, yeah, they got blown up at the end. The main pirate, dives into the water and gets eaten by sharks.
Kabai Sang was so ready to eat shark. He was just like, give me that sweet death.
I wrote, this guy is a bozo.
Well, it's kind of ridiculous because it's, oh gosh, his name is on the top of my mind. I believe it's Cary Tagawa, who played Shang Tsung in Mortal Kombat, who for one reason or another has a reputation for these roles. I'm assuming it's because he's talented in some martial art. But yeah, it's like, how are you going to put Shang Tsung in this movie and have him like so easily go out?
And they had Raiden in there too. Raiden from Mortal Kombat Annihilation, James Remar.
Oh, yes. I was like, you are not talking about Christopher Lambert. I know he's not in this. But yeah, James Remar, who, can I just say, I love him and everything. He's like that guy you see and you're like, who is he? What's he from? You've seen his face. I love him because he's just such a standard, that guy, right? Yep. And in the beginning, especially when they're pulling off that sort of, heist in the jungle or whatever. He's got a very gravelly voice, right? He's got a kind of a distinct voice. If you recognize him, it's not always in the face; it's in his voice. I think he was on Sex and the City, and I remember recognizing him. Exactly. So, like when he speaks, it's like very gravelly, and it sounds like a smoker's voice. But the funny thing to me is when he has to sort of act in surprise or exclaim, right, and react and emote. Because when he does that, he just kind of sounds super phony. He'll like go, ah! It just takes me out of the experience entirely. But yeah, I like when he has to scream because he just doesn't – it just sort of breaks the wall for me.
I think of a massive tidal wave is coming towards James Remar. He's just going to light up a cigarette and stare it in the eye. He's not going to scream.
He's not going to emote, yeah. If he has to emote, it's not usually in his favor. And I love the guy, but – yeah, I don't think that's the kind of person you really want, like, emoting in fear.
If I had to put together a fist fighter squad, I'd take Remar from Warriors.
Okay.
Well, we should have done that. We should have done the best fisticuffers. Because, so when we talked about Rocketeer, there was fisticuffs, but there was a lot of blonks on heads that knocked people out. Like pot on a head, a spoon on a head, a griddle on a head. In this one, Catherine Zeta-Jones, who is awesome, and I don't care, and, better than a million hot dogs, eat it, Eddie Izzard. Catherine Zeta-Jones slaps Christy Swanson, and Swanson drops like a bag of potatoes. She just gets dropped. And there are just, Christy Swanson elbows that guy in the balls and knocks him out, right? Just one punch. There are so many one-punch KOs in this movie. I loved it. I love one-punch KO fisticuffs. Was
this sort of Catherine Zeta's early break? Because I know she went on to do obviously many more roles in Zorro and Entrapment. Entrapment was on the other day. I loved that movie. Did not get a lot of love at the time, but I know she's supposed to play the classic femme fatale given the era, and she fits that to a T. I mean, really, who at the time, besides maybe Famke Janssen, could pull off that look and demeanor? So if we're talking best girls of the picture, I want to say that she trumps Swanson like 10-1.
I love Swanson's and Zeta-Jones' relationship. And
it is a little progressive. It gets that way at the end. There's sort of a mutual kinship and, fighting the bigger threat, right?
We should stick together. But I love the scenes where Christy Swanson is just yelling at her. Like, you're just jealous.
It becomes very petty.
Yeah, like, you're just jealous. And then Christy Swanson looks at her and goes, why are you so mean?
Yeah, some of the dialogue is just like, who is this written for?
I kind of liked how they started bonding. Like, she was kind of jealous at first, and then there's a scene where Swanson's tied up and Zeta-Jones just slaps her again. She's like, now I'm one up on you. And it's this weird little antagonistic journey, and then they become best friends.
Is this one of those, like, jokes where it was like, maybe the message was the friends we made along the way? Is that what we're trying to say?
Well, I don't know. I thought it was you never see that angle in characters. So when watching this again, and also to answer your question, Simon Wincer, he worked with the director. He worked with her on Young Indiana Jones, and he convinced them to put her in this movie because he said she was going to be a massive star.
So Wincer is responsible. I didn't know that. That's cool.
Yeah, and he had done Free Willy, Lightning Jack, Operation Double Drop, a bunch of other things. But so he said she's going to be massive. So they put her in here. And also another interesting thing, which I think makes the movie more charming to me. I mean, there's no choreography in this film. They spent 3 seconds doing these fights. I mean, Billy Zane did remind me of Errol Flynn from Robin Hood, very athletic and everything, but he never had a good fight scene. But they had a 10-month shoot, get the locations, shoot, edit, market, and release. I mean, that's nothing for that script. And then also they were supposed to shoot in Hawaii and use, you know this, right? And use the Jurassic Park sets, but then it got too expensive, so they went to Australia, they went to Thailand. But so I think this movie has this kind of, and there's not that many sets in this film, but I do think that's why it feels a little rushed. The fight scenes aren't as choreographed as they should be, but I think it still adds to the nice PG charm of it.
Well, I think that's partially why I thought this movie was maybe released earlier than it was, because I sort of forgot that it was a 96 picture, and you're right, among your Mission Impossibles and Screams, this feels entirely out of place. But it had this released, somewhat closer to The Rocketeer, maybe. That would feel more appropriate to me, and I think that's probably to its benefit in retrospect. But yeah, I can see that. And honestly, as maybe rushed and limited in budget as it is, there are a few scenes I was impressed with. The stunts especially feel real enough. You can tell when there's green screen, of course, but some of the stunt people on the planes in the air, I was somewhat impressed with.
Oh no, yeah. So that scene, they filmed that on two different. Are you talking about when Billy Zane?
When they land on the horse, in the jungle and ditch the plane to explode.
They filmed that in two continents, and they just said that it was it took weeks to plan, and he said after they finished that, everybody in the crew went and got drunk at the local bar.
I imagine.
The director said, I hired a bar. And I guess everyone just got shiitake mushroomed,
Gotcha.
But they earned it. That's cool. I also think the sets, the set in the cave. That's a cavernous set. That is massive. That's
it is, and that's what made me wonder. Like you mentioned, it was kind of rushed, and I'm sure it was rushed. But that, and even the city streets of New York, quote unquote, it all felt almost. I don't want to say almost. It felt within the realm of Batman and Deco, like big enough and expansive enough.
Yeah, and and you're right about the practical stunts too. That guy really did run across those cars. That was pretty cool.
Mm-hmm.
And then, but the guy who did this, the production designer Paul Peters, he's done a lot of TV, so maybe that helped him. We got some thunder going on here. But that helped him maybe put together everything quickly, but he didn't really follow this up with much. He did White Chicks, Guess Who, American Pie, House Guest. Before this, he had done Little Monsters and Necessary Roughness, so he hadn't done much.
It's a very diverse resume.
But he knocked it out the park, I think. And you know what maybe helped him is, I don't think, White Chicks and American Pie had the longest schedule, so he probably had to put together things quick. And I felt like he did that on this. With 10 months, they started shooting in October 95, and then, 10 months later, they're releasing it. So to build that cavernous set must have gone last. They must have done that last.
Yeah, maybe. I'm not familiar with the production schedule, but it seems like they also cut a couple things, right? There was an infamous lion fight, and I don't know if that was in the jungle or what, but I do agree that what's on screen does feel lean enough. I feel like if it had any more, it might have sort of buckled under its own weight. But that would have been cool to see. That's so classic pulp comic-y, like to have something like that.
So in the beginning, I guess we're going all the way back to the beginning, but
let's start at the beginning, yeah.
I love the bridge scene. It brought me back to thinking about how great Sorcerer is. And it made me want to talk about Sorcerer, the Friedkin 1977